What has someone done to you to make you never trust them again? My mom really fricked with my undying trust I had in her as a child. She would tell us we were going to Disney World, all up to the point of having us pack, just for dad to come home and say we barely have money for food, we're not ever going to Disney. But the mega big papa trust frick was when I got in a car accident at about 12-13 years old. I wasn't hurt terribly bad, but my mom made a huge claim to get a bunch of money. I had to go to physical therapy and fake injuries, and she took the $2,500 and went on a vacation without me. My mother was always going on holiday without her 2 kids. She had enough money for seeing her cult leader every week and a full weekend workshop every month, and the yearly spiritual journey holiday OFC. Didn't find money enough to leave me money for food. Didn't have money for school uniforms. Had one set. Was known as dirty and outcast. Not all mums are saints. So sorry to hear this. Gave him money to buy a birthday gift for a mutual friend. He ended up using it on his girlfriend for a trip to the water park and a bouquet of flowers. Sweet of him, but he got no more loans from me. It would have been sweet of him to take his girl to a park and buy her flowers, if it was his money. Instead he took a girl on a date with another person's money borrowed on false pretenses. Pretty scummy. Roommate who stopped paying bills while his name was on the lease was using my rent money for whatever and not paying rent. Then all of our utilities got crap off because he didn't pay that either, even though he told me he was constantly. Then after the utilities went out I went to work and came home and half of his crap was gone and I didn't hear from him again. A friend and I planned on going to the local carnival. Day comes and she tells me that she can't go anymore because her dad said she has to clean her room. I end up finding someone else to come with me. Guess who we ran into? There were a lot of things with one ex I had. He lied about having a job. Even after he moved in with me, he would just leave the house and go somewhere for a few hours to say he was at work. I was in college full time and working part time, so I wasn't home enough to catch him at this, though one of our roommates eventually did. He apparently was able to pay for his part of the rent for a while by borrowing money from a whole lot of people on a rotating basis, but eventually that dried up. He invented people as well, especially people he worked with, and he always had new and more outlandish reasons for why you couldn't meet them. It was surreal. The craziest part was that after I kicked him out, he started telling his mom he had stomach cancer. I emailed her and told her it was definitely false, but she wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. When she flew down for his surgery to help take care of him, he said he had the date wrong. He did that to her twice. Then I think she cut contact. My best friend as a teenager started mocking me and listing things she didn't like about me to a romantic interest I was introducing her to the way I am. Apparently she was mad about something, but instead of coming to me directly she opted to wait for an opportunity to paint me in the worst light possible to someone I wanted to think well of me. It was so bad and out of the blue that the guy thought she was joking and kind of awkwardly laughed along. I was in tears and angrier than I'd ever been. I left the chat and told her she'd no longer be part of my life, and she hasn't been since. 3 months later, she sent me a half-assed non-apology in an email saying she was sorry but didn't regret it because I totally deserved it because reasons. I didn't respond. 6 years later, she hunted down one of my accounts on a journaling website and left a snide comment mocking me about a video game I never finished playing. 6 years. And she popped up just to be a B to me about a freaking video game. I never responded to that either, but it felt amazing knowing I made the right choice in getting rid of her. 10 years free of that person and I have no regrets. I love that you're still under her skin 6 years later. Kudos for not responding to her. I would have probably said something. What a nutter. I used to manage a movie theater. I came across an application from this kid who was friends with my ex. It said he left his position at another theater because his mom died. I was really sad because we used to hang out at his house and I met his mom several times. Fast forward a couple years, this kid starts coming in every now and then asking for free tickets for him and his friends. I didn't care. Free tickets was one of the few perks of the job and helped our weekly numbers and concession sales. So I'd give him all the tickets he wanted. Then it was his birthday. Can I get tickets? Yeah, sure, no problem. Happy birthday. A few months later it was his birthday again. I didn't realize he had 2 birthdays this year until after I gave him the tickets and sent him on his way, so I just cut my loss and moved on. A couple months later he comes in again and asks for free tickets and says his mom just died. I told him to hold on and I get the application. I ask him what is this? He said his mom died a couple years before that. He said he didn't submit that application and that wasn't even his address. I said, dude, I've been to your house. Don't ask me for tickets ever again, and I left. Never saw him again. TLDR. A friend of a friend lied about his mom dying to get free movie tickets. That's incredibly fricked up. You should have pulled some strings to contact his mom and let her know that deep of a lie is worth free tickets. Told me she was committing suicide. I talked her through it, cried with her, got a nearby friend to call the police to go help her etc etc. Maybe after 15 minutes of this she seems to be better and says, I'm glad I can trust you to be there if I ever actually think of committing suicide. It was a test. She was very confused as to why I refused to talk to her ever again. For a lot of people who are suicidal, a lot of times they're testing themselves. Anyways, I wouldn't blame you for avoiding her. Well, my mother, sister and I went to live with my mother's brother after my father died. For financial help, I guess. When I was 9, my mom got leukemia and the first time she ended up staying in the hospital overnight. My uncle laid naked on his bed and asked me to come in and sit next to him. By some luck, I didn't just do it. I ran and told, but that obviously cemented that I couldn't trust him. Then, his mom, my grandma, came to live with us to help, since my mom was sick, but the whole thing was ignored and we still lived there with my uncle, with my grandma treating him like her favored child the whole time. Nothing wrong. So that also confirmed I couldn't trust her to put me first. They discussed an issue with a mutual friend, my issue, no one else's, that I specifically asked they not discuss with anyone. Only found out when having a few drinks with both friends when mutual friends refers to issue. First friend then said, well, I had to talk it over with someone as though it was my fault for expecting her not to gossip. Obviously I don't discuss anything personal with that person anymore. After years of trying to pull myself back together after my sister's suicide, I started seeing this guy and was really freaking because I have serious commitment issues. My then best friend wouldn't hear of meeting the guy. He wasn't allowed to our group gatherings. She said stuff like, I don't want to share you. I had finally had enough and asked her if she could just support me with this dating thing because her negativity was too much. She told me, you're too fricked up from your sister's death to have a relationship with anyone. I told her never to speak to me again and I haven't. Yeah, what a bee. Friend of 8 years got a job at the same place as me and things were good for a while. But every time I would say anything to him I would end up hearing from the boss the same complaints that I was talking to my friend about. And then after that he started spreading rumors with the rest of our friends and the other workers that I was damaging store property and sexually harassing employees. It ended up being clear as nothing had been done by myself and the rest of our group of friends stopped talking to him. At the time I was the only one that made an effort to be his friend still. Everyone else had gotten fed up with his crap. I always had to cool everyone down, but after that I just ignored his existence. Still work together from time to time. That username really sums it up. Beginning when I was 9, I kept a diary where I would intermittently write random stuff. I was aware even as a kid that my mother would snoop every now and then in it, but it didn't bother me because she's my mom and I trusted her. One day in 6th grade, after introducing her to a boy from my class, she goes and blurts out, oh so you're Turtletilla's crush. I was a fat, bespectacled, insecure 12-year-old, and couldn't possibly need anything else to bring my confidence down. I'd already graduated from uni and had gotten married before I confided any serious news secret to her again. Hey, can I borrow $250? I promise to pay you next week, on payday. Sure man, no problem. Next day, quits job. Huh. I got up super early to help a friend with horse stuff, and the entire time she was asking me to lie to anyone that asked questions about the horse. Every phone call she made was lying to someone about what she was doing or where she was. That and I took care of her horses for months and still haven't been paid for those services. I'm a pet sitter. It's my income and she knew it. It's why she asked me to care for them in the first place. Knowing she wasn't financially well off, I only asked for the cost of transportation to and from her horses. Well over a $200 discount, meaning $0 for my actual services. It's been over a year and she's reluctantly paid me a fraction of it so far. Every time I send a reminder it's ignored, or there's yet another excuse or life crisis that causes her to not pay. If you can't afford your animals, don't have animals. I work in a lab. I have a coworker that is lazy, stupid and incompetent. Frankly, her laziness is a boon, because she fricks fewer things up that way. I forgive stupidity. She was born with it. The incompetence is management's fault. She should never have been given her current responsibilities without proving herself. What I can't stand is her compulsive lying. She lies for trivial things, knowing we know. She lies about big things, and somehow thinks we won't notice or care. The final straw was when she told our customer that the reason she wasn't delivering a test result was because I had not ordered the required spare part. It wasn't my machine. I had no responsibility for it. Still, I had found the required part, got a quote, and sent it to her the day it failed, because I knew she would fail to do so. All she had to do was sign off on it. 6 weeks later, she had not done anything. When I heard what she had done, I simply forwarded all emails on the subject to the customer and our manager. Yes, she still works here. No, she has not changed. Your manager is a piece of crap. Tell a story to someone, in front of me, of something that happened, that I witnessed, in a way that was completely different than what actually happened. I tried to make that sentence as sensible as possible. Hopefully it's not too bad. It immediately makes me doubt every single thing that person says to me from that moment on. Bonus points if I don't even recognize the situation they're talking about as something that I witnessed because they skewed it so much. This is the light, quick version. Best friend was routinely living at my house, hanging out, etc. I defended this kid. We were teenagers at the time, with words and fists more than once. He always had these outlandish stories that, I'll admit, were slightly unbelievable, but I accepted them due to the way they were told. Gradually these stories got worse. Either way, he started stealing crap from everybody, including myself, and generally tried his damnedest to frick over all his friends. His last name became synonymous with being ripped off. I told him to kick rocks when I was about 19. Freaking 10 years later, I run into him at a festival. I was working on a pot farm and mentioned it. I find out a while later from the farmer that he showed up there one night, uninvited, and started name dropping me and basically making everybody real uneasy. I called him out and he pretty much just accused me of all the awful crap he did when we were younger. I didn't threaten him, but he might get punched next time I see him. Lord knows he freaking deserves it. This guy fricked over so many of his friends and lied and lied and lied. There's so many little instances of him being a complete butthole, but I'm not gonna get too into it on a mobile keyboard. Sounds like an addict. Consistently criticized the girlfriends of our mutual friends. If he's criticizing them behind their backs, then what's he saying about my girlfriend behind my back? Or you? I warn my wife about this all time. If people will talk poorly of others to you, they will talk poorly of you to others. My best friend asked me to open up to him. I was going through a tough time dealing with my anxiety. Finally, opened up to him and told him what's up. He went around telling the rest of the friend group he didn't want me around anymore. Right after. Also after messing with my feelings for almost a year, knowing that I was vulnerable. Lost a whole friend group because of this. He has ghosted me ever since. Really sucks cause he was literally the only person I had trusted and did everything with. My girlfriend and I held a moving away college graduation party in a river cabin with our closest friends and family. It was a remote cabin outside of cell phone reception. I proposed to my girlfriend that weekend. It was so wonderful. We specifically mentioned that we were so excited to tell friends that couldn't make it. One of our friends' boyfriends left the day before we did. When we got back into cell reception, we had like 100 Facebook notifications. The boyfriend had posted it on Facebook including pictures. Totally stole our thunder. After confronting him, He apologized and said he has a social media addiction. Turns out he's outed 2 people's pregnancies before they even told their families. He has a problem. We don't tell him anything until we've told everyone important to us. TLDR. Someone with social media addiction announced me and my fiance's engagement on Facebook before we told our friends and family. This happened with not just my sister-in-law but also my father-in-law regarding my first son's birth announcement. The only thing I asked was they wait till I post about it before sharing theirs. I come out of the recovery room with my wife to find my phone full of notifications from both of their posts made literally minutes after the birth ended. Pretty freaking unimpressed by that. Back in high school, my best friend was having a birthday party. Told me that her dad said she was only allowed to have 5 people and wanted to invite people she didn't get to see very often. I was disappointed, but accepted it. Day after her birthday, one of our mutual friends is telling us how 10 people were there, including her ex-boyfriend. Confronted her. She denied ever saying it, called me a liar, a bad friend, etc, and hung up on me because I started crying. What a crap person. After our wedding reception, my new husband and I left the money we got as gifts with his mother while we went to enjoy our honeymoon. A week later we came back and gave her a call saying we were on our way to pick it up. We needed it to do some stuff on our house. Well, she confessed that she spent it all while we were gone. She never asked permission and lied about needing it for bills. In the past we had loaned her a couple $100 here and there that she never paid us back, but we never thought she would steal money from us. Looking back, we were stupid to trust her with it. We told her we're never giving her money again and she had a week to pay us back. She did get the money back to us, but when she handed it over she hugged my husband and thanked him for helping her and letting her use it. I'll never forget the look on his face when she did that. Now 4 years later we avoid ever seeing her because every time she asks to borrow money, and every time we say no. Most recently, she showed off a crappy piece of art she bought from a neighbor for $150 the week before, and the next day she asked us to borrow $200. When we suggested she sell the art, she said she'd just call her siblings for the money. I'll never trust her again. Mysteriously, my D&D characters would always die once I reached level 10 and, oh sorry, healing and resurrection just won't work. It took me months of watching their characters have glorious adventures before I realized they had planned to kill me off regularly for fun. I couldn't figure out how their characters would show up with fabulous new and powerful weapons and defenses that I didn't remember them acquiring in previous adventures. Oh, I played a side adventure at home, rolling and DMing for myself. Eventually, one of the guys told me the DM was just buying the books and picking ultra powerful items for himself and writing them onto his character sheet, and that I probably shouldn't play because it had been decided I would always die. Rejected, even by the D&D players at my school. Lucky me. I told a close friend about how I felt about this girl I had a big crush on at the time. Then he sent me a recording of him telling her and her friends that I had a crush on her whilst laughing. He just said it was a joke, and that I shouldn't take it so seriously. You should have told him your relationship with him was a joke and he shouldn't have taken it as serious, then proceed to never talk with him again. Ex dumped me cause she didn't want to be in a relationship. Started dating a new guy, with the same name as me. Half an hour later, no joke. I hate to break it to you, but she was probably dating the guy before she broke up with you. Bounced a rent check. I was sharing an apartment with my best friend. The apartment and utilities were in my name, so he paid his half of the bills and rent to me. I usually had to nag him for the rent money, and one month he was particularly late. I told him I needed the money ASAP to pay rent, so he gave me a check. I deposited it, paid the rent check, and all seemed well. A short while later, I find out his check bounced, which then made the rent check bounce. When I confronted him he said, "Why'd you deposit that check? It was no good." I was dumbfounded and asked him why he'd give me a check for rent he knew I needed to pay if it was no good. He said, "You kept bugging me about it." No way I'd ever be able to trust someone like that. I kicked him out of the apartment and never talked to him again. Also, my fiance in college cheated on me, so I immediately broke it off and never spoke to her again. Only way to do it, cut all ties. Hard break. My ex-boyfriend sent nudies of me around my high school and everyone called me a W from then on, even though I had only ever slept with him. It was tough. Don't send nudies, kids. Depending on what country you're in, that could be very illegal. My mom was nice enough to offer a room to my cousin for college. She ended up snorting H and using the house as a stash house, stealing $4,000 in gold, and convincing my mom to buy her weed and leave my dad. My mom is still with my dad, but it was a real crappy thing to do. Went to my dad in a mental haze at 5 AM to ask for help after throwing up blood and being scared to death. In the afternoon when I woke up, he claimed I was just overdosing on drugs, which he never specified, in front of my younger siblings, took my car key, took me off the family phone plan, and told me to move out. Upon telling him to drug test me, he said he didn't need to because he just knew. I am now anemic and have an ulcer, and I'm 18. Thanks a lot, Pops. Broke up with my fiance and slept over my friend's house. My friend wanted to be in an open relationship with this guy from work, but her fiance said no. To get her way, she sent her fiance downstairs to have sex with me while I was passed out drunk, so that he'd have no choice but to let her pursue work love interest. Freaking hate them both. My friend's house was supposed to be safe. Now she tried to get her fiance to rape you. You were passed out drunk and couldn't give consent. That isn't sex anymore. When I started working in juvenile corrections, I had a co-worker I started with. She seemed professional and sweet. We all went to pre-service together and it made us all pretty tight-knit. She was very personable and helped a lot of the female staff adjust to our new careers. When we began duty, she was assigned a unit full of horrible inmates that were really disrespectful and their unit manager didn't do anything about it. The operations didn't want to do her job for her, so it turned into the officers being on their own with getting those guys in line. I was in the relief pool, so when her unit was available, I decided to go help her out. Even if the inmates are rough, I figured we'd be a team and get through it. So here's the thing. I'm the minority in that building. The inmates aren't white. The staff aren't white. So it could get awkward sometimes. I'm goofy and it gets a lot of laughs. But it was literally a tough crowd. So, this kid starts staring into me disrespectfully, saying I'm ugly, I'm weird, and I'm poorly dressed. Whatever. I knew this was coming. Then my partner, she chimes in with him and goes, I know. He was so weird during our training, I expected it from the inmates. But my partner joined in with them to be disrespectful and insulting. I acted like I didn't care, but it hurt me a lot that I trusted her and she would just burn me like that to be cool to some butthole teen. I avoided her after that. Siding with inmates when your staff is the shittiest thing you can do. She started fricking a lot of staff and buddying up with the superiors, and it became awesomely common that she'd kill time sitting in operations and leaving her partners alone on the unit. She always talks about her church and being a Christian. Right. Whatever. No wonder nobody in our facility wants to see what the Bible has to offer with people like her holding it out to them. See you here. Siding with the inmates is a big fricking deal. I'm good at my job. Don't hate the inmates. Don't harbor animosity toward them or dwell on their crimes. But anything but a united front in front of them is just asking for trouble. She really was out of line. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.